Hi, I'm Joe,
I'm Joe's mom.
and we're
Eastside
Eastside Vibes. Today we're going to talk about Olivia Rodrigo and her album Guts. Before we get into it, what do you think of when you think of Olivia?
I actually didn't know much about her until this album. I had heard her name, but I kind of thought of her as like a much younger person who I probably wouldn't listen to that much. And ironically, it was one of my students. I mentioned this last week. It was one of my students who said to me, "Oh, she's got a new album coming out," and Joe had said, "Oh, I'm going to review it, and we could do it on our podcast or our cast." And so then I went back and told the boy we were doing it, and he was so thrilled. So I really did like it, but that's kind of like all I really knew about her.
It's kind of funny that Olivia seemed to burst onto the scene out of absolutely nowhere a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
She got, if you don't know much about her, she got famous on Disney Channel. She was on a show called Bizarre with Jake Paul, which is kind of funny.
That's funny.
And then she was on the High School Musical TV show also. That's where she kind of really rose to fame.
When he said that to me, I thought he was saying she was in the movies High School Musical. And then I'm like, but wait, she's only 20. What was she, like 10 when she was in it? So
No.
I didn't realize she was on the show.
Yeah, the show's very popular too. Or I think it's done now.
Okay,
but-
I'll have to watch it. People have said they really liked it, so I'll have to watch
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I never watched it or anything. I know it's not really for me, but
Right.
but I've heard that it's good for what it is.
All right.
And while she was on that show, she started releasing her own music on the
Okay.
side, and it went insanely viral. And her first album, Sour, was that came out a couple of years ago, was critically acclaimed. It was considered a phenomenal debut, especially for someone who had never made a full-length album before.
Mm-hmm.
As a pop record.
Mm-hmm.
It's very diverse in sound, and it's very relatable for people her age, because she's, I think, 20 years old right now.
She's 20. She was 17 when she made that album,
When she
right?
made it, yeah.
Wow.
And if you listen to the songwriting, you're like, how is a 17-year-old writing this?
Right.
It sounds like it comes from a 17-year-old, but also sounds like she has songs on this album where she talks about how she feels like she's way older than she is.
Right,
And
because of all she's been through now. That
And
she
just
became
because of
popular.
her maturity and
Mhm,
stuff.
mhm.
I think the last song on the album, Teenage Dream, she kind of mentions how when are people gonna stop saying that she's too old, or that she's old for her age, and just say
Right.
that she's her age, you know?
Right.
But so she's kind of known for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how well received her first album was. Guts had extremely high expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to see if she could deliver, because that's real. First of all, a lot of artists in their second album usually isn't as good,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they were so highly revered on the first one,
Mhm.
when you compare the two.
Right.
And then also, it's when she's 20 years old, can she really? Because with this, if she could do something great, she'd probably cement herself as one of the biggest pop stars in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting to see if she could do it, and you'll see our opinion on it. But it's safe to say that she did it. She nailed it again.
What I love is that she writes her own songs.
Yeah.
I mean, for being that young and having been so successful on the first album, and then from what the critics are saying, this is a really good album as well.
Yeah.
The fact that she's so young and she's writing her own songs, that's so impressive.
And I think you can even hear in the music, she definitely has a big say in what it sounds like.
Oh, definitely.
Which is for someone who's 20 years old to be doing this, it's pretty amazing.
It is.
mean, there's someone who we're gonna mention in this multiple times, I'm sure, that she's very comparable to in her success, how fast she rose to fame, and how good she was from the jump, and that's Taylor Swift. And
I think they connected somehow in a friendship or whatever too. They said Taylor I don't know if she took her under her wing, but Taylor respected the fact that she had become so strong so fast, and did a connection there.
Taylor definitely knows that she's inspired by her. I
Right.
mean, Olivia has been like pretty outspoken in that, and
Yes.
you can hear it in her music.
Oh,
and
definitely.
just the fact that she's been able to rise to superstardom this fast.
Mhm.
Like, I think she's the perfect person to compare it to, because I don't think there's anyone else who really like did that like Taylor Swift did it.
Right.
Like that young, that fast, because she was like 17 when she got big too. So
Olivia's going to be doing an Eras tour when she's 30.
most likely.
Eras 2.
But anyway, let's get into the music.
Yes.
The first song we're going to talk about is one my mom loves. It's the first song on the record. It's All American Bitch. So you can get into why you like this song so much.
So the reason I really like this song is, first of all, I like the way it sounds. It starts off as a country ballad, and that's where you really hear that Taylor Swift. I as soon as I put the album on, I was like, wow, this is Taylor Swift.
I think like early Taylor, like Our Song,
Yes.
Enchanted, songs
Yes,
like that.
yeah, early Taylor, country
Love
Taylor,
Story.
Love Story, 100%. It's early Taylor. It's not, the Taylor that people know now.
New Taylor, yeah.
Yes, new Taylor. But then as it progressed and it started to get a little, it starts this slow and then it gets a little harder and more like out
Yeah.
there. Then I started to hear like Avril Lavigne or Alanis Morissette in it, and I was like, I loved it. I just thought this was really good. And when you listen to the lyrics, at least for me, what I was getting out of it and what I've seen other people say is that it's really about just being that perfect woman. So Joe's like, I don't know if people are going to understand what you're talking about, but if any of you have ever heard of Stepford Wives or the show Leave It to Beaver, it kind of relates back to the women from like the 1950s who would wear dresses when they were, vacuuming the house, and the high heels and the pearls, and they were expected to be perfect all the time, and they couldn't cry when they were sad, and they would put Coca-Cola bottles in their hair to make them curly. So they had this very stoic way of presenting themselves, yet they were very like proper and had integrity, but deep down they were a tough woman. They were tough and they could handle anything. And she starts off, I think, with that slowness of, where you're a woman who has integrity and you're sweet, but then it's like, hey, look, I'm a tough woman. I have to be this kind of person who's strong for the family, and that's why men desire me, because I have this ability to do this and to be this kind of person. And that's why I liked that song a lot.
Yeah, you can tell. One, I guess I didn't realize from the music video that 50s like woman is like what she's referencing for sure, like with like the Coke cans in her hair. And yeah, like I can like see like from the softer parts of the song, like she's like trying to like portray herself as being I don't know, like stoic, I guess.
Yeah.
And like
I'm
not sweet,
proper.
but with the harder parts, which to me like kind of made me think of like Green Day or like Rancid a little bit, like California like skate punk bands from like the late 1990s, Social Distortion.
Right. And that's why I thought of Avril Lavigne there, because of the skateboarding and all that kind of stuff.
When I wrote about it, I said this. I wonder if because she's 20, her parents would probably be like low 40s, like 40
somewhere
years
around
old.
there, right?
I bet that's the music that her dad listened to.
Right.
Like Green Day and like Rancid, and she's from SoCal.
Oh,
so,
probably.
So
just
it's
so you know, I'm 57 and I listen to Green Day and Avril Lavigne, but definitely they would have grown up on that, her parents.
Yeah, so I think it's cool. There's other music on this album that you can tell that seems like it's inspired by stuff her parents listened to.
100%.
I think that's pretty cool that she's doing that. But yeah, I think that's a phenomenal opener to the record.
It's great. It's great.
It really gets you into it. It's soft and then it's hard. The vocals are like kind of quirky and cool. I like how she's shouting a lot of the lyrics.
Yeah. After she gets that slow part, then she just boom goes into it.
But so the second song we're gonna talk about is one that I picked. It's Lacey, and Lacey. I think it's like a really like pretty and sweet song.
It's beautiful. It really is beautiful.
I compared it to I know my mom likes the Twilight movies. There's a song called Rosalind by Bon Iver, and I can't remember the other artist in the song. But like the tone reminds me a lot of that. It's like kind of has like a 2010s like folk-ish sound. I think that the alliteration in the lyrics is cool. How she keeps like using the word like Lacey and using words that like start with L to kind of push like that push those lyrics along, and it's lyrically a really interesting song because she's obviously comparing herself to someone in her life that she's probably friends with,
right.
You said it could be like an older family member or something,
possibly.
But she sees this person and thinks that they're what she wants to be. She thinks they're beautiful. She mentions like being obsessed with their perfume and everything about them is like embodies like who she wants to be as a woman, and she thinks she can't be that.
Right.
And for being like, I think if I was like 20 and this song came out, like I don't know how it would I could relate to anything else more. Like,
right.
Everyone's, especially in the social media age, all you do is compare yourself to other people.
Right.
To the point where it drags you down mentally so badly. And she's definitely like kind of referencing that on this song.
Right.
I also think the vocal layering on this song is just very pretty. She has like multiple different tones, and you can tell like how good of a vocalist she is through this song.
He was saying he wondered if she actually sang the different levels to the song.
I think so.
And then I was like, I wonder if she just sang it and then they, like hit a button and it went, in different ways. But he laughed a little because when I first listened to it, I just heard her doing the rhyming, Lacey, Stacy, and this stuff, and I was like, I'm not too much a fan of it. But then when he explained it to me more, I was like, oh, yeah. Now I see it.
I think like from a standpoint of like me like being a writer and like the writing is really cool to write that way. It's not easy, to do that, and it's almost like poetry in a way.
Yes, that's what I felt. It was like poetry,
and it's really hard to do, and I appreciate like that style of writing. Even if like this isn't a song that I would probably listen to a ton on my own, I appreciate it for like what it is. I can always appreciate phenomenal songwriting, even though I've said in the past lyrics aren't always the biggest thing to me. Like I can appreciate very good songwriting.
Correct.
That's you always talk about how you like Eminem. Like, even though I don't like the way his music sounds, I can appreciate, like, he uses alliteration and stuff in his lyrics.
Oh, tons.
And I can appreciate that, because it's just hard to write that way.
Right.
The third song we're going to talk about is technically one of my favorites, but I know my mom really likes this one, too. It's Ballad of a Homeschool Girl.
It's great.
So, when I first heard this song, I compared it again to bands like Green Day or like Rancid, but I saw someone reacting to it online, and now I can't get this out of my head. I think it sounds, they said it sounds like Weezer. I'm like, holy crap, it sounds like songs like Say It Ain't So, or like Island in the Sun, like...
When he said Weezer to me, and then I went back and listened, I'm like, Weezer.
And that's another thing. I bet her dad was like a big Weezer fan.
Yeah, he listened to Weezer.
Early to mid 90s.
Yep, he liked listening to Weezer.
And, I'm a huge Weezer fan. I would love to see Weezer live. They're so cool.
Right.
But, yeah, to hear a song that sounds like Weezer, like 90s Weezer in 2023 by like a 20-year-old girl is pretty cool.
What I thought was really interesting about this is we've known homeschooled people. And so I was thinking to myself, is this really what a homeschooled kid feels like being homeschooled, they're doing their homework, but like deep down they want to go in their room and just start like going off on what it's like to be a homeschooled kid, and they hate their clothes and all this stuff. And I'm like, it just reminded me of that so much.
You know what's funny, completely unrelated? There's someone that they actually just quit, but someone who I was working with, who, because I interacted with homeschool kids growing up, they told me they were homeschooled, and I had guessed that they were homeschooled before they said it. Because I was like, you can just, I don't know, you can tell. He was like a little socially awkward. You could tell he didn't grow up like interacting with people.
Right.
And she obviously is relating to that. She talks about like all the guys she goes for are gay, and she feels like she doesn't fit in. She feels like what she's wearing isn't cool, and
we were saying she must have been homeschooled
at some point. She had to have been,
because of all the things that she was doing. So she must have been, and deep down she's like,
Yeah, it's like, how do you? And like, this isn't something I can relate to, not being that way, but I could see that. It's like, how do you like learn how to interact with other people if you didn't grow up interacting with other people?
Right. That's all you know. That's all you know is what's happening in your
And the
home.
only way she would know is to interact with people is like through acting. She probably like seems like she's acting when you're having a conversation with her.
Right.
Because that was her interactions with other humans.
That's true.
Whereas like she didn't grow up like you and me, just like having friends and going to the mall and.
Right. It's a good song. It's a really good song.
And it's like a really fun song. I could see it like. It's probably going to be one of the more popular songs on the record because it's just very fun. It has a sound that relates to people my age, but also has like lyrics that relate to people her age and homeschool people in particular. So yeah, Ballad of a Homeschool Girl is definitely one of the highlights on this record.
Definitely.
The next song we're going to talk about is Making the Bed. That's another one of my mom's picks.
So when I first listened to it, I automatically thought of Rihanna and California King Bed. But then when you really start to listen to the song, it's definitely not the same idea as California King Bed, and it's actually about herself. So it's Olivia Rodrigo singing about herself, and she's actually reflecting on her rise to fame and how she suddenly went from being this girl who was on TV and that stuff, which made her famous, but then she wrote that first album and then she just skyrocketed from there. And she had actually said the reason she made Guts is because she wanted to talk about bad relationships, the complexity of her music, but more particularly about the pressures to look and act a certain way. So in this song, she's really talking about the fact that, I've moved myself now into this level of notoriety of singing, and I made my bed and now I gotta lie in it because this is what it's like to be at this point in my career.
Yeah, I could get that. I think she's kind of saying like she didn't expect this to happen.
No,
she didn't really necessarily even want this to happen.
Right. Or at least this quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't I think I actually mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but I recently read an article from a member of BTS, Suga, and he was saying that when they performed at the American Music Awards for the first time, I think it was 2016 to 2017. That was the only time he's ever been nervous on stage because it was such a large scale and it's so important to do well there. But he had said before that point, he never being at the AMAs had never crossed his mind. He never thought that was something that was even possible.
Right. I think, and this is just me, we're obviously not musicians, but I wonder for them if it's just they really want their music to get out there and be popular, but when they do this, especially at her doing it so young, you don't realize everything that comes with it. Not just the good, but all the bad that comes with it too. And that's scary. That's a scary thing. You're making your bed, you gotta lie in it. All the stuff that comes with it.
And most people can't relate to her rise.
Right.
like most people who become big, it takes a while to get that big.
Right. How long did it take BTS? A while, or?
I mean,
no?
yeah, they were around since like the early 2010s.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
they got like super big internationally probably like 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
But
All right. But again,
They-
all of a sudden you reach that fame, and it's like,
even
whoa.
for them, they can't. I think we brought up Taylor Swift. I think she's one of the only people that really can relate to Olivia.
Right.
Because she did rise that big. I think Ed Sheeran is another person that rose that
Oh,
fast. Or
okay.
like even Justin Bieber
Okay. Yeah.
is someone who rose that fast. So there aren't... Justin Bieber actually has that one song, and now I'm blanking on what it's called.
Lonely.
Yeah. But it kind of has this similar sentiment to this, where it's
Yes.
like when you get like that big,
Right.
who can you even talk to?
Yeah. That's a power.
Like,
that's a powerful song.
No one relates to Olivia Rodrigo. She's 20 years old and one of the most famous people in the entire world. That's really, and even people who were that way don't relate to her anymore because
No.
they're not that way anymore. Like
Right.
Taylor Swift is 35 or whatever
Yeah,
she is.
right,
So
right.
she felt that way 15 years ago, but
Right.
she's been that famous for 15 years.
Right, and she now knows to be able to say, knock it off, or I don't need that, I don't want that, and she's young.
Yeah. So as far as the way this one sounds, it's another one that has like a slow, like folky sound, but I think it also, especially like the way the vocals are delivered, it reminds me of like maybe like Oasis a little bit, like
You mentioned
songs like
that.
Wonderwall or
It's very
like-
pretty.
yeah, it has a super just like nice and sweet sound, and but like this thing about this song that's probably the biggest thing we would take away is like what the lyrics and what she's saying. The next song that we're going to talk about is Logical. That's another one of my mom's picks, although I really like this one too.
Right. So I was sharing this with him, and he's like, this is a stretch, Mom. This is a stretch. So I felt that when she opens the song, it sounds like a portion of Simon and Garfunkel's The Sound of Silence. And he was like, that's a stretch. That's a stretch. But that's what I heard when I first heard the music in it. But you can clearly understand that this song is about her being in a bad relationship that she just can't get out of. It's like that whoever this person was, and she did bring that up in an interview, that there were people who these songs were about, but she'll never say who they're about. And this was one of them.
Why would she?
Exactly. Well, she said maybe someday, but she's like, she's not there now. And she said this was really about a very toxic relationship where every time she wanted to pull out, she was almost made to feel guilty about leaving. So she stayed in it because she didn't want the other person to feel bad about it.
The way she feels in this song is like, is the definition of a very popular buzzword right now, and that's gaslighting.
Yes, that's what I came up. Yeah.
He was gaslighting her.
Yeah, that's the word I saw.
He would make her feel like she was the one making him act that way towards her. Like he was just a complete, like, not a good dude, but like she was doing it.
Right.
She was making him that way.
That's the song that's the word I heard
Yeah.
going with
People
that
love
song,
that
but
word.
I don't know what that really means. So I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't understand what gaslighting means.
But, what's funny is, like, I don't think the melody at all sounds like Sound of Silence, even a little bit, but I could, like, see, it's definitely, like, somewhat inspired by that kind of music, like, that kind of folk pop, like,
Yes.
the Simon and Garfunkel. I'm trying to think of other artists that were like that. Maybe, like, is it Emerson, Lake and Palmer?
It
Is that
could
what
be.
they're called?
Right.
Similar type of music to that. But-
Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Yeah,
things like
that's
that.
another one that's not. Yeah, so it's definitely inspired by that kind of music.
It's a sad song. It really is. It's a sad song, but
Yeah,
it's beautifully sung.
This one is one where like where she like as far as like how mature she is, I guess. Like, I
mhm.
think, like, that really resonates in, like, songs
Oh,
like this.
definitely.
Like, usually a 20-year-old is not writing lyrics like this.
Right. You would hope
And
no 20-year-old had ever been in a relationship
it's
like that.
pretty
And
amazing how self-aware she is.
very
Maybe,
much
like,
so.
because she grew up in the spotlight the way
Mhm.
she did.
Mhm.
Like how like when I was 20 years old, I was blaming the other person. I was
Mhm.
not like reflecting on maybe I was doing thing like why did I stay with this person if I knew it was like that?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she's kind of blaming herself a little bit, which
Mhm.
or not blaming herself but taking responsibility for letting it happen.
Right. Right. She is.
And which is funny because the next song on the record, which is another one that I picked, is "Get 'Em Back," which it's almost like she is 20 years old and she goes back on that idea. Like
Right.
she realized that she was a person, but she's no like, no, what? Screw that. Like
Yep.
screw
Yep.
that guy.
Yep.
Like, no, it is his fault. I had nothing to do with it. He's just a dick.
Right.
Like
Exactly. She sang that at the VMAs, and it was what was cool is that when she came out and sang it, it was just her and a couple people, and it wasn't like this big production. It was like, "Boom, get them back," you know.
I saw, so when I first heard this song, I kept thinking of that one song by Cake.
Okay.
It's like a 90s, I showed my
Oh,
mom
yeah,
like
you
a
did.
90s
Yeah.
alternative. Or like, it reminds me a lot of like Beck or like
Yes.
Butthole Surfers, like these like 90s like alternative punk like rap groups.
Right. Do you think Nirvana
No.
in there? No.
Not even
Okay.
a little bit.
Okay.
No. No, like the delivery, like Beck Loser in particular.
Oh,
like,
yes. Yep.
songs like that
Yeah,
where like
yeah.
they kind of like have this like very monotone like delivery over like a rock instrumental.
Yeah. She's very monotone, but you get the point.
But then the chorus is like very big and that like her being so calm on the, or I guess not even calm, like monotone on the verses makes the chorus seem bigger and
Right.
more like in your face.
Yes.
This is a song that I think is gonna be very popular at like bars and parties.
Oh,
and
definitely.
It just has like this energy of like people screaming it at people.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
it's such a fun song. I think it's probably the most fun song on
Yes,
the album.
I would agree with
Bad
that.
Idea Right's also one of the singles. That's also a fun song. A little quirky and like
Right.
I actually, even though I understand why that one was picked as the single because it's more shocking, I think this one might have been like a better single, and it's interesting that she released it as a single after the album came out because it has like single energy.
Right.
It like almost feels like a mixture of like that 90s alternative music and then like I Knew You Were Trouble by Taylor Swift.
Right. Well, now that you say that to me, it almost sounds like she did the songs in order because it's like Bad Idea, right, to stay with this guy or go with them, and then she
Yeah.
has Logical talking
Later,
about
yeah.
later, and then all of a sudden she's like, get them back. It's like, oh, she put those in a logical order to show how she feels
Yeah.
about this relationship.
And then I think the actual next song is my last pick. It's Love Is Embarrassing, and it kind of sums up like that idea. Like,
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
like, why was I into this guy?
Right,
You
right.
know, like I knew that it was bad, and I knew he was bad, and people told me he was bad before she got with him, and she did it anyway.
Right, right.
And then she like knows that it was bad, and she like gets mad about him again, and she's like, wait, like this stinks. Like,
Right.
love does suck. Like
Right.
why do I keep like falling for this person who obviously doesn't care about me?
Yeah, I guess I never really saw that there was a story. I mean, I knew the songs were about certain things, but I never saw that there was a storyline, and there is a
Yeah.
storyline to at least those songs.
Well, even the last song, like Teenage Dream, is like her like kind of like summing up everything. Like why do I feel like so mature for my age, but at the same time feel like I am my age? Why do
Right.
people think that I'm older than I am, and when I
Right.
just want to be my age? And
Right.
but anyway, as far as Love Is Embarrassing goes, this one reminds me a lot of the. I know she on her last album she kind of went into this sound a little bit. It reminds me of like the pop punk that I grew up listening to that was popular when I was young, like bands like We the Kings or Boys Like Girls, even like All American Rejects. Like
Good band.
this just like 2000s late 2000s, like, emo adjacent music. I like the emo stuff, but, like, it's inspired by that, but it's more pop. And this, like, this song has that energy. I think the chorus is just, like, very catchy and fun.
Yes.
It's another one where I could see it being really popular at, like, bars and stuff, just because, like, you can sing along to it.
Right.
But as far that's another one of my favorites, just because I like, as far as, like, the sound goes, and I think lyrically it's cool because, like,
it is
she is, like, realizing that like what she was doing was dumb and wrong, but that's just, like, how love is. Sometimes it's not logical, it's not
right,
you know, it is what it is. You fall for someone and you're like, why did I fall for that person? They weren't for me.
Right. And then sometimes you got to get them back.
But exactly. But overall, I think this album is really good, like, really good. I actually rated it as one of my highest rated albums of the year.
What did you rate it?
I gave it, like, a 9.
Wow.
I think it's, like, and the thing is, like, I try to, like, through, like, my writing, and I, like, tried to explain this to her, like, and this is hard to do. I try to put it from the perspective, like, of who this album was written for. This isn't written for me. This is, if I was, like, 19 to 25, I would think, and, like, a girl especially, I would think this is probably the best album I've ever heard in my entire life. I would give it, like, a 20 out of 10. Like, lyrically, it relates so much to how those people feel.
Right.
Sonically, like, it relates to, like, what they would listen to their parents, but, like, also, like, what they're into personally. And the only album this year that I rated higher than it is another album that I probably wouldn't listen to a ton on my own. It's the Lana Del Rey album that came out earlier this year. But yeah, I just think that as far as for what it is, it's so good. And, like, if you actually, like, I know, like, even, like, now you're kind of realizing, if you, like, think about the way the album is constructed, the way it tells a story from, like, the beginning, like, to the end, like, she knew exactly what she was doing.
Right.
And that's not easy to do for a 20-year-old girl. I also kind of put that into this. You got to remember, this is her second. This is, like, she only made, like, 24 songs in her whole life.
Wow.
You know, and
smart.
She knows what she's doing, and she's really good at it.
Well, to go along with, you know, that mindset, she announced Wednesday or something that she's actually going to be coming to Milwaukee on her concert, and he was joking, and I would throw my joke in there too, that if we showed up, like, we might be some of the oldest people there. And would it look weird?
Might.
Well, yeah, would it look weird if we're showing up to a concert of a 20-year-old girl, but yet the album is, like you said, we can't relate to what she's saying, but the album is good and the music is good. So it's like,
I mean, there are songs that, like, I would listen to again. I think I would listen to Ballad of a Homeschool Girl. I think that's very good. I think Get 'Em Back is a song that you're going to be forced to listen to because it's going to be very vague.
Right.
Love is Embarrassing, and one that I didn't mention that I really like is Pretty Isn't Pretty, because it reminds me of The Cure, which I love goth music. So
this concert, when it comes to Milwaukee, it's going to sell out like that.
Oh yeah, it'll sell in 2 seconds. Right. I actually saw that she's putting aside a bunch of tickets, like, reserved, like, for, like, college age people at $20.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so, like, they don't have, because, you know, this will be like when I saw Drake, like, the cheapest tickets for, like, $250. I could see the cheapest tickets for this being, like, $500.
Well, that my student of mine who mentioned it, apparently he follows Olivia Rodrigo on social media, and she put out the message that she was coming to Milwaukee, and on September 17th you can, like, pre-purchase tickets or whatever. So he was looking it all up, and he said right now tickets range between $20, which must be the college one, to $400. He said
it'll go away.
Right. He's like, that's what the range is that they're saying right now. I'm like, okay.
I think they'll be, like, in the thousands. Like, it'll be like, because the fact that she's doing this, like, pre-purchase thing just makes you know that it's gonna sell out literally, like, in 2 seconds.
Right. She knows.
Like when Taylor Swift, like, puts out like they have like a lottery for her tickets.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, and might be similar.
Mm-hmm.
Olivia is like the next huge superstar. I think so.
Let's just hope Ticketmaster gets it right.
Yeah. Hopefully it's just not Ticketmaster.
Yeah, everybody. Let's just hope they do it right.
But anyway, yeah, that's how I feel. I think it's just a really, really, really great album for what it is. But yeah, how do you feel about it?
I also really like the album too, and just sitting here and realizing there was a logical hint off the song, there was a logical order to everything that was there. I didn't catch that right away until we've had this discussion.
And I think if you go back and think about the album, you can think every song seems like it's put in a perfect spot.
You start off with All American Bitch, and then it just works its way down. It's like, wow, they all work.
Like the Bad Idea, right? Then the Vampire, then the Homeschool one. It's kind of like a different idea. We get back to the love stuff with like Making the Bed as a similar feeling to Ballad of a Homeschool Girl, but it's more serious.
Right.
Then we get back into the love stuff after that. Then the end is back into the more like retrospective or introspective stuff.
Right. I don't know that every song is related to certain parts of it, but there's a theme. There's a theme, and it might be more than one theme going on, but there's a theme.
Well, I think the themes are this relationship and just like rising to fame as young as she did.
Right. I think those are the two themes that are in there. So I would rank this for myself. I would rank this probably about an 8.5 because I think the music's really good, and I like her voice. She's a beautiful voice, and not only just the singing, like when you listen to songs like Making the Bed or Logical, you can just hear her voice being beautiful, but then when she gets into Ballad of a Homeschool Girl and that, you hear that like harsher tone, she's really good at that too.
Yeah, that's one thing we didn't bring up too much is like she's an extremely versatile vocalist.
Yes.
Like you can tell she was trained at singing and she's like great at it. Like she can hit all these like harsher tones. It reminds me a little bit of another person she's been compared to is Hayley Williams.
Yes.
From Paramore.
Yes.
Where she can like hit like those like harsher tones. She can hit like she has a very powerful range.
Right, but she also has a beautiful
like a softer voice.
Yeah.
Like she's an extremely like wide ranging with the way she can sing.
Correct.
But yeah, that's how we feel about Olivia Rodrigo's Guts. I think that like I said, she's the next like big thing, and it's really cool that she was able to deliver in this way. First, this is for sure going to be nominated for like Grammys for Album of the Year.
Definitely.
This would probably win it, to be honest.
I hope so. I mean, Taylor Swift is going to be out there and all that stuff, but I really hope that they would give it to her or at least someone else because and I'm just going to speak to her.
She's a person of color.
Yes, and it's just it's great. It's a great album, and it's not that I wouldn't want to. I mean, Taylor works hard too. That nobody can deny the fact that Taylor Swift works hard. I'm not personally a Taylor Swift fan musically. I like her old stuff when it was more country, but this girl at 20 is just killing it right now. And I would think she would deserve, Record of the Year or Song of the Year.
You would think if the Grammy's in touch with what young people are into, you would have to pick something like this.
Right. I really hope they do.
Wanna read your quote?
Oh, sure. I was just going to go right into it. So the quote is actually an interview that she did, and she found it humorous that people were thinking that Vampire was about Taylor Swift. And I guess this
I don't even...
Yeah, it just
at all.
blew up out there. And in the interview, Olivia was asked, is Vampire about Taylor Swift? And apparently whoever her people were sitting next to her, she actually looked at them and whispered, how am I supposed to answer that? Because she was just blown away by the whole thing. So all she said was, I never want to say who any of my songs are about. I've done that before in my career and probably won't do it again. I think it's better not to pigeonhole a song to being about just one thing. So no matter who it was about, it's not just about one particular thing, and that's what she's trying to say there. But she was shocked that people were trying to put that out there.
And to me, as far as that goes, like, I mean, I know she always does this, and I always kind of like push back on it. I think that people are way too obsessed with like who celebrities are dating and like what they're doing. You'll be like, oh, did you see like whoever did this thing? And I'm like, I didn't, because I don't.
He's like, I don't care.
I love these people. I love their music or whatever. And if they like put something out there personally, like, yeah, I'll support that. But like what people are saying about them, like when they're like having pictures taken of them, when they're not like, when they don't want to have a picture taken of them, I don't really. Like, that's not what these people, like, we shouldn't be, like, obsessed with that. That's what I'm saying.
Right. They're people. And I think I've said this before, that it was Reese Witherspoon who said something like, when you become famous, you have to accept everything that goes along with being famous, and that's you lose your individuality. You're no longer, like, hidden. You're now out there, but they're people. They're people. They're like Joe and I. They're people, and media, paparazzi, just, fans don't think that way.
Well, who cares who that song's about?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, I think it could relate to anyone. Yeah, like, she talks about, like, fame in it, but, like, you could think someone's just sucking off of, like, doing well at your job, you making more money than them.
Right,
and,
exactly.
it's like a similar idea.
That's why she said pigeonhole. People are trying to pigeonhole it and don't.
But, with that being said, I'm Joe.
I'm Joe's mom.
We're Eastside
Vibes.
And have a great day. Thanks for
Bye.
watching.